The aftermath of the attacks of September 11th left many of us anxious and jittery. Studies indicate some Americans had a hard time dealing with their sudden loss of security.
And then there are those images of that day. Even if you've chosen to not view them anymore, you may still have them burned in your memory.
Our next guest is Dr. Leslie Donnelly, licensed psychologist. And going back to the images, it's still sensitive, and we will be showing some of those images during this interview in case you want to step away for a moment. Dr. Donnelly, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Let's start off with the psychology of the day, September 11th, 2001. Why is it so hard to move on from the tragedy?
Well, Americans had never experienced a attack of this magnitude on our homeland before. You know, people were panicked. How many planes were still in the air? Who was going to be attacked next? Suddenly we were at war, and it was in our heartland, and 9/11 changed the psyche that America was an invincible, safe superpower. There seems to be a post-9/11 mindset that, you know, other wars took place far away.
Right.
And this one was right here on our land, and the hijackers lived right here. They learned to fly the jets here in the U.S. So it was an eye-opener that we as a superpower were no longer safe.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the images that we've seen, some of the images that we still continue to see, some people choose to look at them to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Some people choose to not look at them, to try to erase them, to try to forget.
Mm-hmm.
Is that healthy? What's healthy?
Well, different people cope in different ways, and for some people, looking is a reminder of how they felt that day, and they don't want to feel those feelings again, and it's just too painful to look at these images and to think about what occurred. For others, they can't look away because it's so surreal. They can't believe that it actually happened, and the more they look, the more real it becomes to them. And that's also a psychological technique, systematic desensitization. If you fear something, the more you're exposed to it, the less you tend to fear it. So I think also we're trying to reconcile in our minds, because we have Manhattan as this glamorous place that we'd all like to visit, and then we look at these images and we see this horrific tragedy, and we're trying to put the two together. And it's for people who can't look away, I think another big part of it is they don't want to forget. They don't want to forget those who suffered, those who lost their lives. They want to honor them, and they feel by looking away, they're turning away from their memories. I think also looking can be a justification for our military involvement in the Middle East. And I believe too that when you look, it's important to remember all the heroes that emerged from that day. Heroes that ran into burning buildings, people who risked their own lives to save the lives of others. I think we lost a part of ourselves in 9/11, but we also gained a kinship with other people who were experiencing the same things. And it united us in a way as a nation, and I think it spoke volumes about the American people.
Now, as we were preparing for this show, you know, obviously we were reliving that day and looking at some of these images and telling stories and things like that. And it really wasn't until this morning that it really started to kind of hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I felt those emotions coming back,
Mm-hmm.
almost raw.
Right.
Is that normal?
Yes, well, anniversaries often bring up grief and memories, and if you're 17 or older, you probably know where you were and what was going on 9/11, because it's what psychologists refer to as a flashbulb memory. It's burned into our psyche, that what was going on. And so we're going to have emotions about that. And just like people have emotions about Pearl Harbor if they lived through it. But I think with the passage of time, it becomes more of a historical event rather than an emotional event. But we never want to forget. But it's also common that human memory does fade over time. That's very normal. That we won't remember as vividly with the passage of time, depending on our involvement.
Right.
Let's talk about security for a second. Our executive producer this morning, as we're preparing for the show, she looked at us and said, I hate this feeling. The feeling of vulnerability, because all of that came back again. How should we feel now about our security?
Well, I think we need to be more careful, as we have been. You know, things have changed, and 9/11 forever changed us as a country, and we need to be vigilant and not forget. And you know, now we have the Patriot Act, we have Homeland Security, we have airport security. Things have changed, and it's sad, but it's a reality.
We live our life.
We live our lives, and we move forward, and we do what we can to control what we can control, and the rest of it, you know, we have to let go of, because it doesn't serve any purpose to worry about things that we have absolutely no control over. That's a waste of energy.
Thank you so much,
Thanks for coming
Dr.
in.
Leslie
Sure,
Donnelly.
thank you.
Okay, still to come, talking to your child about the events of September 11th. The subject's going to come up at some point. You know it will, so how do you handle it?
When we come back, a children's book written by a teacher right here on Delmarva that's helping children grasp what happened that day.